What biases exist around children's book authors and illustrators, and how do you deal with those biases? I think there is a bit of like a myth around being a children's book illustrator and author, that although it is like an extremely enjoyable job and it's great that I get to go into work and come up with ideas for stories and draw all day, a bit of an assumption that it's kind of something I'm doing as a hobby, something that I'm doing for fun, and that it isn't something that I've worked really, really hard to get into and get books published, and tried and failed numerous times in that process. And how do I deal with those biases? Yeah, I guess sort of trying to gently drop into conversation that it's been a long road to get to the point where I've had things published and got them out there. So I think the best bit of advice I've ever received, I don't think it was from anyone I know, I think I read it somewhere at a point where I was feeling really indecisive and like couldn't quite kind of put my finger on what the next thing was that I wanted to do, and that was, nobody cares about what you do as much as you do, so you can overthink something to the ends of the earth, and actually, you know, if you want to do something, you should just go for it and not worry about what other people are thinking about what you're doing. You should just go for it. A moment where I failed. I think this happened a couple of times to me actually before I realised that I needed to perhaps deal with it in a different way. So when you're a creative person and you're making something like a children's book, there's so much of yourself that goes into it, so much of your time and energy and personality that you're trying to pour onto the pages. So it becomes a bit of an extension of you, and then that's really hard to send that out there into the world and perhaps not get the response to it immediately that you hoped you might get. You know, you might get a few publishers turning you down along the way, and it's not because they hate it, it just doesn't quite fit with what they want to publish. It doesn't mean that you're not good at what you do or that you should stop trying. The moment where I failed was maybe where I thought like, oh, I've shown this to one person, they didn't seem to want to publish it, so it must be no good. I'll put that in a drawer and I won't think about it again. Whereas actually I realise now that, okay, one person might not have wanted it, but what did they want to say about it? Could they give me some useful feedback? Would that help me change it and develop it and send it off to somebody else and actually get that project out there in the world? What advice would you give to a young woman who wants to become a children's author or illustrator? Be a bit Frida Kahlo, like you've got to be yourself, kind of find your own voice. Don't think too much about what you think other people want to see. Your best work will be if it's an extension of you, and you have to kind of make yourself quite vulnerable to put that out there, because as I said earlier, you put a lot of your personality into your work. But yeah, I think kind of think about the things that you are interested in telling stories about. Think about your own experiences and try and pour that into your work. Be yourself, don't be anybody else.